Jill? Hello, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying the conference so far. I've got to catch a couple bits and pieces of it. I'm excited to spend some time having a conversation with you about social media. So I'm going to start off the conversation with a quick look at some social icons. So we all have our phones, right? Here we go. You can see all my icons on my phone. My kids say it's a mess and they're only 8 and 9, but they're already getting interested and intrigued by all things social, right? Because they're social by nature already, and because they are exposed to a lot of different social media type tools in the elementary classroom. So this has inspired me. The conference, honestly, has inspired me to dig into this topic a little bit more, because as a mom, I'm very interested in it. And as someone who works with undergraduate and graduate students in social media studies, I have a diverse background of thought and expertise when it comes to the topic. So I am going to pursue research a little bit more in the K through 12 arena. So I wanted to start off the conversation with that to let you know that's where I'm at in terms of how I want to approach the topic. But I have this quiz, this visual quiz for you to take a peek at. And there are about 100 icons on here. I have something in the way, so I can't totally see the top of it. But if memory serves me right, there's about 100 here. I'm just curious, how many of these do you think you know? Like how many look familiar to you as you look at the screen? I want to give you just a minute or so to take a peek at that and see what you end up telling me you know. Jen says, I know about 1 or 2 from each line. That sounds pretty good. Anyone else want to share? Did I give you enough time? 15. Okay, that's pretty good, Andrea. 17. Nice, Annette. 5 to 10 from Carrie. 24, Lisa. That's great. 20 from Meg. Okay, I'd love to show this to my undergrad students, and you can keep looking at it to see. I think it's kind of fun. I show it to the undergrad students to get them to think about social media, not just being the typical things like Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube, right? YouTube is a social medium. Why? Because we are sharing immense amount of content by video. And there is a way for us to interact and include comments on there. So it's kind of fun to take a peek at this. When you think about social media, think about that idea of what do we share? How do we give that feedback? How do we comment? So I'm going to call out the one that is cream. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. And then on the left-hand side, it's kind of creamish and it has the brown G. That should be Goodreads if I'm identifying it correctly. So that is a spot where you can go in and share book ideas. If anyone has those beautiful friend book clubs or aspire to be involved in those book clubs like me, just not finding the time to be in them, that is a social sharing component, right? That is a great way for us to find out what's hot, what do we want to look at, and get advice and ratings from friends, right? One other, on the right of that same row, there is a box that has the G+. Does anybody recall what that one is? No longer exists. Let's see if you got it here. Google Plus, yes. Star for Annette, absolutely. So there are a lot of other apps obviously on the screen. Some of them happen to be websites. WordPress shows up here, Wix shows up here. So those are all ways that we can connect. Oh, Nathan too, I missed him. Thank you, Nathan. These are all ways that we can share content, create content, and open it up for comments and conversation. So you passed this first step here. I'm going to share the presentation here. Okay, so again, social media use in the elementary through graduate studies classroom. Caveat there, I have never been a K through 12 instructor, okay? So what I'm trying to put forward for the teachers who are on this webinar is some inspiration to help you kind of get started, to help you think about what can you do, what do you want to do, what will be useful for students in the classroom, okay? Here is my background in terms of what I've done beyond the classroom. I have launched a digital marketing, very small micro digital marketing endeavor here where I've helped with nonprofits starting up, and social has been a huge piece of how they can effectively grow audience, grow followers, right, and get that engagement to launch. So that's on the left-hand side there. I just got to give this as a caveat too, and it might show some biases I have or biases I have. I have worked for the last at least 5 years as a volunteer with the National Institute for Social Media. So what this organization is all about is training social media strategists to do social media work. So I think it's important for you to see that and know that my expertise comes from that lens, right? And a lot of the work I've done in the undergraduate classroom and plan to do in graduate studies forms from NISM. They are really a good foundational non-platform. When I say non-platform, they do not just focus on Facebook or Pinterest or any of the platforms. It is very much strategically, how do you communicate on social media? So I had to share that with you. Underneath NISM, I have my mom logo that I thought would be helpful to see too. So I have that mom lens as I'm looking at this. And I'm finding, I don't know about others in the chat here, I have an 8 and a 9-year-old. My 9-year-old is a creator beyond belief. She has a notebook with her all the time. She is constantly thinking about what she wants to say about herself, what she wants to share, what knowledge, like platypus was on the docket last night and her bat presentation. So she's always thinking about how can she share her knowledge with others, right? Already at this age of 9. And has started to do some pretty cool artwork and has experimented with looking at YouTube. And honestly, I have her account locked down, but I've let her do some stuff on YouTube to show her artistry as she's drawing. So, and she did get 2K video views on something. So I have to share that with you because she was pretty excited. I don't think I've had 2K views on a video. So, and it was just her drawing, like a video of her drawing. So I have that lens. Of course, I want to protect them as well. And I think kids need to be protected online. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then I have experience being a marketing director at a small co-op and worked in digital media and marketing in many roles at the Star Tribune. My favorite claim to fame is helping the reporters get comfortable with social media and using that to share their stories, which has been over a dozen years ago, right? So when social media was just kind of kicking off and becoming the cool thing to do, they were very hesitant. So a lot of change had to happen, a lot of counseling, a lot of education. So this is my experience beyond the classroom. What I wanted to pull forward for you, and again, I plan to do more work in this area. So if this excites you, I'll be happy to share anything that I do in the future here related to the topic. But my passion is really, how can social media be used for good? Because we hear so many instances where it can be pretty negative, right? We maybe have experienced some bullying, cyberbullying a little bit ourselves, right? And we know that maybe students have as well, if they're a little bit older and truly are, in electronics and on social type stuff often. What I hope to bring forward to you here in this short amount of time is a conversation around, I only picked 3 social media tools, and honestly, that felt a little hard. So there's so much more we could do. But we'll look at some social media tools, some anti-bullying resources. I've created an appendix that has a toolkit of a lot of resources that I found that are intentional about helping to plan safe, effective classroom activities and learning related to those 3 social platforms. So I am picking on YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest, or another way that I want you to see this is YouTube, TikTok, and Pinterest inspired learning. So it doesn't mean the students necessarily have to be on all these platforms. It's just getting us to think about, how do we teach them? How do we model behavior that will be impactful and helpful for them as they're starting to build a personal brand? Okay. And storytelling, again, I think is a big component of it. I think storytelling happens to kind of solidify that personal brand. And how do we share those stories about what we're passionate about or what we are doing as students in a classroom in a safe way? The continuing education strand here is positive behavior intervention strategies. Okay, so here's where I'm going to start. Again, I do teach undergraduates primarily, but do some graduate work as well. What I want to encourage you to do is start with the why. Start with, what are those learning goals that I'm trying to reach, or those outcomes, objectives, right? Where am I trying to go with the content, and how can I get students excited about this? My goal is always to have that kindness and positivity as part of the conversation. I'm training undergrads to go out and do some social media work for organizations, right? They have to protect the brand, and they have to show up in a manner that is tied to the values of that organization. So the undergrad work is a little bit beyond, right? It's very much real work and skills-based work where they are creating something to communicate for an organization and the stakeholders. So knowing that, I'm layering in some other things here to have us think about how could this span across all the areas. This resource from Loyola, I thought was very helpful to just kind of solidify some of the key things here and why social media might be beneficial. Promotion. So to the extent that we can use it, it is a great tool to help showcase student work and to communicate overall, right? And to celebrate. So that's what I see when I look at that promotion step. Extended learning. We found this when we were shifted into hybrid mode or completely virtual mode, right? Teachers using some tools, and it could be a social media tool, maybe not a big one, but to share videos. So my favorite thing during the pandemic related to teaching and learning was my youngest daughter was in kindergarten. Her teacher quickly turned around a whole bunch of videos where she was sitting there at her home with her teddy bear, taking her book, reading to Teddy, but also reading to her students and reaching out to her students, right? So she extended, in my opinion, that learning by having that be something that she shares related to the topics and encouraging students to read with their stuffies, right? That's a great way to encourage that love of learning. Creating connections. Again, this is a great way to connect with educators, experts. I use Twitter to do research a lot of the time, and just to see what others are working on, to look at research studies, to find a way to publish stuff, right, and to collaborate. So I think we can look at that connection piece, both in the classroom and then with each other. I do have a dream of, and maybe this will make me do it, of creating some sort of a Facebook group for educators or teachers or faculty members, right? So we can share stories and really benefit from one another. The biggest thing you'll probably hear me talk about and focus on during this conversation is, how do we get students to be good digital citizens? How do we help them to understand that if we show them how to responsibly use some of these tools or create content that is positive and valuable, right? That we can make them in the future be a good communicator and a positive digital citizen. So I do have the link here for the presentation, or that resource here. And honestly, while I'm saying that, I will share a link to this presentation too. I realize right now that I didn't do that yet. I think these stats, and I promise we're going to talk to each other too. I just wanted to set the stage here on things related to social media with the youngsters and the teens. So YouTube, I mentioned YouTube as a resource that my children do see. Hopefully it is mostly YouTube Kids. So there is a YouTube Kids version available. I think many know that, but just wanted to throw that out there too. So on the left-hand side, you'll see these results, which to some might be surprising. 80% of parents of young children say their child watches videos on YouTube. Okay. Among this group, roughly half say their child does this on a daily basis. So that's pretty significant. I have, since I started working at the Star Tribune, the Pew Research Center has been an amazing resource for me in a lot of the work that I've done. So you'll see that at the bottom of these. And inside the slides, I do have links to further research for all of these. There will be a ton of links inside this presentation for you to take forward and take a peek at. Then we get to our teens. YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat are the most popular online platforms among teens. My students who are 18 to 24-ish love Snapchat. And I am probably one of the few, but I do allow cell phones in the classroom because most of the classes that I teach are related to digital marketing. So I'm having them look for things and share things all the time. And they really don't abuse it. So that's one of the beautiful things here. But I have caught some students on Snapchat looking at stuff, and I've caught them taking some photos, right? Taking photos of themselves in the classroom. And I might playfully say, oh, I saw you take a selfie. Just make sure I'm not in the background, or if I am, that you got my good side, right? So, and then people kind of get laugh and think it's kind of fun, and then the phone is put away right away when that happens. So I've had that happen a couple of times here, but it opens up the conversation that is a platform that they use for communication. They'll send their friends a message, they'll send them a photo. So it is highly popular. Reddit is an interesting source for research. So if you haven't popped on Reddit just to see it for yourself, I just wanted to pause on that one and tell you to take a peek. I have a question for you as we look at these platforms. I have a stepson, he is 24. He is hardly ever on Facebook unless something big happens, right? So I think Facebook, the youngsters, I don't see a lot of youth kind of flocking there, but I think there's a lot of power in Facebook in terms of connecting with family members, right? And then also the power of Facebook groups. So I know some teens might use that a little bit more than just going to the Facebook platform itself. So I wanted to check in with this group and see, do you belong to a Facebook group that you think is beneficial? I'd love to just in the chat, if you could say, Yes, I do. That would be helpful for me to see how many use. Awesome. Lisa says yes. Yeah, I find them so beneficial. And I think that's kind of an extension from this conversation that I just thought I'd mention. Okay, so it looks like a lot of you commenting have had a great experience there. Okay, Lee, yep, that's okay, off platform entirely. And then we have a no too. All right, so let's move on to a conversation here in a second. This is something that what I had to do is just look at the Duluth Public School policy. Obviously, I don't have a ton of information related to this, but I could ask the teachers that my I was going to say students, but children learn from. This is the Duluth Public Schools policy, or what I could find online. So it says, yes, we understand social networks are important tools, you know, they're a communication tool, but they provide access to password protected social media tools and district approved technologies, and encourages use of those tools for collaboration. And then you see in purple, however, public social media networks outside of those sponsored by the district may not be used for classroom instruction or school sponsored activities without prior authorization of the superintendent or designee and parental consent for student participation. I personally am on board with that. I think this looks like a pretty good policy, right? Without having a heck of a lot more details. But I wanted to see that in this room, how many of you are aware of your school policies related to this? Nathan, yeah, we are a Google college. So I know from my experience as a mother in the elementary school, they have used some Google apps to share like journaling that my daughters do, artwork, things like that. So if you're not aware of the policies that the school has in place, I would just encourage you to take a peek at those, right? And I do have resources here for you to yeah, Annette, that you know what? Now you're catching me here. I'm not sure that we do have a social media policy here on campus. So I want to tell you, and thank you for bringing that up at the College of St. Scholastica. Here's how I approach this. So I will have some assignments where I will ask some students in digital marketing to get on Twitter and to do some tweeting. So I know a lot of other colleagues do that too. However, if a student is not comfortable or does not have an account or is not excited or willing, I shouldn't say excited, it feels uncomfortable about starting their own account, I have them write and research without creating that account. So that's kind of how I approach it. Annette, I'll have you chime in.
I guess I'm just thankful, grateful to you to even like have to respond to that. I was even hesitant to put that chat in because I thought I am embarrassed. Like I don't know what's going on in my own workplace. But clearly, I think, I mean, if you're a guru at this, and if you don't know that there's a particular policy on this, then there's probably not. So
yeah,
so
but there should be.
I think.
Yeah, thank you, Annette. Yeah, there should be, I think. So thanks for bringing that up. That's great. So that's my advice here as we are working through this, what does this look like? So jumping from the idea of having those policies in place, one of the big things that I've found in research here for this mini lit review that I've been working on is that cyberbullying, one way as teachers that we can help stop this or minimize this with our students. Obviously, kindergartners aren't going to be doing a heck of a lot of this, right? I'd even argue maybe 4th grade, 5th grade feels like I'm in that sweet spot where we're entering, like, how do we safely navigate some of these resources, right? And what does this look like and how do I protect them and teach them? this idea of setting those expectations. And you'll see that I have links to a contract, a social media contract between, it could be between parents and kids. It can be between teachers and students and parents, right? Having everybody on board. It seems like it's highly used when I've looked at this research here. So cyberbullying, I'll let you take a peek at this, but really it is someone using technology to harass, embarrass, really target someone else. And this could happen when kids are gaming, perhaps. I know Roblox is another thing that I'm trying to navigate. And I'm sure you guys hear a little bit about this in the classroom. And cyberbullying in some cases can be against the law. So what does it look like overall, right? It could be a very mean comment that's posted, and that gives us evidence of that kind of behavior, right? It could be someone sharing a photo of you that you just didn't want published, right? Or other personal information that could be very hurtful. And this can happen with fake accounts too. So, oh, it looks like Lee sent a CSS social media guidelines. Thanks for sending that. So we'll take a peek there and see how that informs our work. Okay, so I did pull a little bit more research, and I do have a paper copy of it here, and there's some things I wanted to read to you. So you see the bars here, victimization. So this is students or primarily teens during COVID-19. This is COVID-19 bullying research found on Cyberbullying Research Center. So you'll see here, 2016 to 2021, you see a decent drop, right, for sure. So as we look at more students reported that they had experienced recent cyberbullying in 2021 compared to previous years. In 2019, about 17.2%. I know this doesn't show up on this graph in particular, but I wanted you to hear it too. 17.2% in 2019 and 16.7% in 2016, but fewer students reported that they had cyberbullied others. 4.9% in 2021 compared to 6.6% and 5.7% respectively in 2019 and 2016. So this is noteworthy in the research. The first time any of the students, the first time in any of the studies that more students said they were bullied online, more online than at school, which obviously makes some sense, right? So let's see. Students overwhelmingly said that they had been bullied less at school since the start of the pandemic. About 6% said they had been bullied more at school during the pandemic. So a little bit of an increase there. But when it came to cyberbullying, most said they bullied online less or about the same as before. So this is victims, right? And then people who are admitting that they're offending, or teens from the 13 to 17-year-olds. So I think it's worth, understanding what these numbers look like and how we can step in and make a difference in, what does this look like? How are students expected to behave when they're using these kind of tools, so they form those behaviors as they go out and do more. All right, here is a document that will be linkable when we get this presentation to you. I thought it was super helpful for me. I want to do this with my kids, getting them to start, they're 8 or 9, so this says start between 7 to 13 years of age, or whenever a new device is being used. My kids did not have a device until they went virtual for learning. So now we do have a Chromebook, right? Yeah, that's what it's called. I never use the Chromebook. And then we have the iPad. So they each had to have one during remote learning. So now that's become a thing for them to create and look at some stuff. So we need to make sure we do monitor what they're doing, right? But I want to do this contract as a family. And again, it's setting those boundaries, creating that open line of communication, And then helping them to see that this can affect their mental health and their well-being. And if they choose to go on to something that's not appropriate, someone could bully them or target them or make their computer not work because they are putting a virus on that equipment, right? So it's this idea of creating this document or this agreement and getting parents involved. I would argue that I think parents probably want to be involved in this decision, right? And want to be aware of what's happening and what they can do to help their kiddos figure out the best ways to behave. So what I want to do is have you guys go into some breakout rooms. And I'm not sure how many we have on here now, but Jill's going to help me with this part. Okay. I think it's helpful for you to talk to one another. And what I would love to do is have you share, what students are you working with in the classroom? So we have the span there. We won't break you up according to that, but I want you to think about how you might have some, or what your best practices or your experience with social media related activities looks like. So Jill, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm doing that right. Yeah. I'm doing that
Awesome.
right now. And how long would you like it for?
Let's just do like 3 minutes.
Okay. 3
Quick
minutes.
conversation. Yeah, and they can be small groups just so they can share.
Okay. I'm opening them up right now.
Thank you.
I didn't put you in a group. That's okay, right, Melissa?
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. That's cool. Thanks, Jill.
Okay. Okay.
So if I put something in the chat right now, are they going to see it when they come back, or should I wait until they come back? I don't know that. That maybe sounds
You
weird.
want them to see it right now? You can send out a message to their breakout rooms.
Annette, did I not assign you in a great breakout room?
I don't think so, because I wasn't invited into one. Like I didn't get the little message. That's
Oh.
okay.
My gosh. Well, I will put you in one.
No worries.
I'm so sorry. That was
It's all
weird.
good.
So nice to see you both.
It's great to see you both too. How's everything going up there on the main campus?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
A lot to
good.
do. A lot to do.
Yeah.
Not enough.
There's
Enough time.
exactly, there's never enough time, right?
Oh,
No.
I have you in room 1. That's okay. They're coming back in.
Let's just leave it.
Do you want me to put you in one, Annette?
Nope, that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all
Okay.
good.
So I know, Melissa, you can't see it, but they're coming back in 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Okay. That sounds good. Yeah, I was just going to share the link to the presentation. So when they come back, I'll share that out too.
Okay. And I'm just so you both know, I kept the recording on. It's just easier that way because I feel like when it's split like that, it might get wonky when I go to retrieve it. So
Yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. Oh, do we need to retrieve them? As I was the room host in the session before this, and I just sent it to the cloud. I better check on that.
yep, that's right. I did too. Yeah.
Okay,
It
then
sometimes
they can,
it sometimes takes a little while for it to come to your email, but
yep, yep, okay. So in the last session, the people were saying that it's 48 degrees in or 49 in Duluth and foggy. And right
Yes.
now it's 86 here in Northeast Minneapolis with a dew point of 71 degrees.
I like that, but my kids are going to melt when they go to my parents next week. They're in Pine Island, kind of by Rochester.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they've adapted hugely to the weather.
To the Duluth weather. Yeah.
Yes, they have. It's amazing. Yeah.
So just to let you know, they're going to come back in, breakout rooms will close in 30 seconds. So they'll be back then.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome room host.
Uh-huh. Welcome back. Did you get to meet some new friends in a short amount of time? 3 minutes? What I'm going to do right now is share this slide deck with you, okay? So of all the presentation slides. So before I go back to presentation slide mode, I'd love to hear, if you don't mind sharing, one person from each group. I'd love to hear what you learned or what you talked about in your breakouts. What came up for you? Nathan, I'm going to pick on you because I can see you.
So I had Sarah in my group. One Sarah, kindergarten teacher. I don't think she had to do much with it. And the other Sarah, 9th grade math, and she has to compete with Instagram for her class, and she's trying to find a way to make that work better, to maybe make it complementary instead of compete. And I was a substitute in after school, dealt with all those ages.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Sarah, I think it's Sarah Hill, right? Kindergarten. I will hopefully give you some things to inspire you to think about not necessarily having students be on the platforms, but some of the activities that will help solidify some of that digital citizenship stuff. So I hope that will be helpful in the conversation. All right, how about one more group? Because I think we all learn from each other. I'd love to hear what you uncovered.
Can I say something? We talked a lot. I talked a lot about how I think it was Lee in particular might use this, and she's going to be working with graduate students. But having recently graduated from the GTL program, I know that being able for your students to show what they have learned in multiple ways is the beauty of teaching. And so you can say, oh, well, you could write a paper, or you could make a poster board, or you could make an iMovie, or you can do a TikTok. And, whatever way appeals to those students the best might be the best way for them to showcase what they've learned, which is how I use it currently.
Fabulous. Yes. So we are on the same page. So you'll hear some of that similar stuff. Is it Carrie?
Yes.
Carrie, right? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. So having it be open to how they want to learn and how they are willing to share is important too. So I hope that was helpful. We'll pull you back together to have a quick conversation again here in a little bit, but I know we only have about 20 minutes left. So let me share some things here. Oops, yep, there we go. All right, so broadly, again, I could have went on and on for days looking at these different platforms and just some ways that we could use those. So this is very high level, right? And looking at YouTube, this idea of teaching students how to develop and answer questions, and not only looking at articles, but getting them used to thinking about, and when they can search for helpful videos, having them record something, like Carrie said, how do you want to teach the students in your classroom about your favorite stuffy? And I'm completely making that up, but having them do kind of show and tell in a video format as it's age appropriate, right, might be a cool way for them to do that storytelling in a positive way. Or if they have a research project, we had our undergrad students, since we switched from hybrid to being in person, we still kept some video components here, and students did record those and save those in YouTube. And a good way to do research too. So I think I already mentioned that as you look at generally how those educational activities might come into play for YouTube. There are obviously more things that can happen, but I just wanted to focus on a few with these platforms. TikTok. So I have a couple of mostly high school examples to share with you because some of these TikTokers are doing amazing things. TikTok is super interesting because it is so good at adapting to what you're looking at. So my kids and I love dogs. My content when I look at TikTok is primarily fun dances. Did you know the Macarena is back, by the way? I was like, what? Yes. So they're dancing and singing and that came from school. So, I got to relive a little bit of the past there. So those fun dance videos and dog videos show up, right? So you can create videos. They are very short, right? Like 60 seconds. So thinking about how you storyboard this and get students to write on a piece of paper what they could do in 60 seconds, what would be in each frame. I feel like if they're exposed to TikTok and kind of see how quick that is, they see that there are cool tunes that are usually applied and images or text with the videos. So it's not just a video, there's storytelling that's happening, right? And it helps students to see behind the scenes. So you'll see some of those examples coming up here related to that. Pinterest. So I'm pulling in Pinterest because I think Pinterest gets the raw end of the deal. I know that it's targeted at mostly moms, and honestly, when the pandemic hit, plants became exciting for me, and design of furniture in my living space because it's tiny. Like, how can I set this up to be more effective for us all, right? So Pinterest became something I looked at a little bit more during the pandemic. I have used pin boards, right, for research projects. And I'll give you some examples here related to that, but these are, how to do this or DIY is pretty huge on this platform. And then again, some tutorials. Video is becoming more and more popular on Pinterest. So I want to bring Pinterest to the forefront, and we'll be doing more with Pinterest in my undergrad classroom because guess what? Most of the 20-something males, generally speaking, have not seen it and just are not excited about Pinterest. So I want them to see it because there will be businesses or brands that will have these things, right? So they at least need to be able to see it and go on there and feel comfortable with it. What I did was take a peek at those educational activities and just kind of try to align them. Again, it's probably not going to be super perfect, but as you think about the different school age spans here, you might be able to use these in a different way. So elementary, just activities that would focus on developing and answering questions. Again, the stuffy bear, someone reading a story, having those videos that are shared on the screen in the classroom might be appropriate. Exercises, so things like maybe yoga. I know there are yoga, cool, fun yoga things that are on YouTube. And then some of those other popular dances or Kids Bop, so all these content is all over YouTube, right? So having that age appropriate stuff can be helpful for elementary. So that's probably not anything too new when it comes to elementary, but just getting you to think about those things that help with digital citizenship across the board. Middle school, I think we could use pin boards a little bit more than we do for research projects. And I think at this age, they're really excited about teaching others or doing experiments. So that feels like, Pinterest and YouTube might be very beneficial there. Not that other platforms wouldn't be relevant, but just from my research, this is what I'm kind of aligning here. High school, obviously they probably could use all of them, but I was focusing in on video creation, right? And that research component, because I think that's a big piece of what they're working on already. And then in college, I did share a little bit about what I'm trying to do with my undergrads in digital marketing. I did create a platform or a social media certification that is not platform agnostic, but it's tied to this content area, marketing and communications. So they are seeing that at a completely different level. And then they're understanding how to communicate better with organizations, and they're looking at these platforms to see what others are doing and formulating strategies based on that. So it's definitely a different approach in college, but hopefully they have this background so they see these platforms, they know how they use them, but they need to understand how organizations use them will be different than what they're trying to do to impress their friends, right? It shouldn't be so different. You should be behaving the same offline as you are online. And I think I always impress that upon them, but it definitely is a different angle when you get to the college age here. So I did mention a little bit about storytelling, and I think it's important for us to just think about how students best learn. Again, having them have a variety of things to choose from when it comes to assignments is pretty critical across the board. It's probably much more difficult in K through 6 for sure, or K through 12. Without me having that experience, I can assume that, right? But thinking about how they learn, we usually learn really well if we storytell. If we can create a story and share that story with others, we are typically becoming more and more of an expert in that area, and there will be comfort level and growth there, right? So there's a lot. This is kind of a busy sketch, but I thought it was helpful to see just all the ways you can think about storytelling really being impactful, and working on key skills like writing sentences, and like how you would share this with your friends and with family members. I think is helpful to set the stage for how you could share information about yourself in a digital environment with potential companies or on behalf of a company. So I think storytelling is really key in all of this. We are at the time here where I want to show you a couple quick assignments that have been inspired by a lot of the research I've done this summer so far. So this might be something that a lot of you already do. Students picking that research topic and then using YouTube as a source. So trying to get them to understand what would be credible, what would be trusted, but having them see videos as a source, creating a deck of slides here, right, to communicate a main idea and some supporting evidence related to your research topic. And then ultimately, the biggest thing here is having students share why they picked those sources and how they worked through that to figure out if it's trustworthy or not, I think is key to this assignment topic idea. The tools, again, would just be YouTube Kids, or there is focus on YouTube EDU, I believe is how that shows up. So there are multiple ways for us to find those YouTube resources. Another thing here, I'm going to try to get this link to work. I might have to shrink the screen. But when it comes to TikTok, there are templates online that are fairly helpful. There should be a link here for you to look at that. But I'll just describe what I've seen and what I have used in the classroom. It's a sheet of paper, and then it has 3 boxes kind of lined up to get us to 10 seconds each, right? So it's the frames inside the TikTok video. Students can write down what images look like, what text, and what sound would be for all three of those 10-second snippets, right? So they can map out that idea, and I've had students map out that idea and turn it in, and not video record, not go on TikTok and really do that thing, right? Do that whole video, but just to get practice with storyboarding. That's assignment inspo number 1 there. I've seen a lot of teachers create a 60-second video on their own, right, to share how to do stuff. But you could spin this around and have students do that. So a book report might be a really interesting way, 60-second book report. Give me that. What are the key things? What do you want to communicate? Or another research topic, right? That might make sense. So you could extend it to elementary. I was just focused here on like book or topics for middle school through grad. Another way, again, I've kind of shared this one with you in advance, share age level appropriate TikTok video to inspire kids to learn a new song, dance, or other topic. I'm seeing a lot of movement here in the research with professors and teachers doing that. So let me stop that just for a moment. Let's see if we can we got to have one video on in this talk, right? Let's see if I can get it to play well. This should be a science type video. Let me get my screen. Oops. Of course, it's playing it before I can share it. All right, let me share my screen. And you will have these links again, so. Can you hear it?
No, we can't.
Okay, shoot. Does anybody remember how to share that? The video sound, okay.
Yep, you have to go back and stop sharing, and then there's a little on the bottom, there's a thing that says like include, there's a little checkbox. You have to check it that says about sound.
Okay,
So start sharing again. So you stop sharing, start sharing again.
okay,
And when you hit start share on the bottom, there you go.
more, and then, sorry everyone, share sound, there we go.
Circles are females, squares are male, the children are down below. If it's colored in, then that's the trait you're analyzing. What you're going to need to be able to do is recognize, is this an autosomal trait or is this a sex-linked trait? Now, if it's an autosomal trait and it is a recessive trait, you will see that trait skipping generations. And it doesn't matter the sex of the offspring. If it's a dominant trait, still doesn't matter the sex of the offspring, but you won't see that trait skipping generations. The tricky one is the sex-linked trait. And if your teacher gives you a sex-linked trait problem, more than likely they're only going to give you one that deals with a recessive sex-linked trait. Males will be more likely to inherit that trait because they have a single X chromosome, whereas females have 2 X chromosomes. So the pattern will be more likely in males and probably will skip. For pedigrees, circles are female, circles are female.
Okay, Annette, thanks for your help with that. So how many of you would feel comfy doing that? Creating a TikTok with your quick little snippet of content that you want to share with your students? Carrie would? No one else? I'm working up the courage for those kind of things. I love to create videos. Okay, so Nathan and Annette, a few of you. Good, good. I think it's fun to see what they've done and the immense amount of tens of thousands of followers on those things. So I would encourage you to go and take a peek at those too. All right, a couple more things here to share with you. Mood boards. My content expertise here with undergrads is marketing. So creating mood boards is part of the name of the game, really. But it's exciting to see how much inspiration happens in the classroom as they're pulling in key pieces into Canva. So I do have a resource list for you all. Canva.com is a free tool. You can do a paid version, but I have students just do the free version, and you can go in and create almost anything under the sun. So they do have mood boards that you can go in and create and then pull forward. And so this is off the platform, off of Pinterest, but kind of that same example. You're curating and you're collecting things that are inspirational to you in some way, right? As you would on Pinterest. So the other idea here is to, and I'm going to experiment again with this year in the fall, creating a class board in Pinterest. So you can see on the right-hand side, I just started to experiment with that. So I'll get that rocking and rolling. And you can invite students to the mix here to add to the board. So we can be talking about particular topics in the classroom, and then everybody can kind of share and collaborate on that. So there is a link in the presentation to the Pinterest site to create those group boards, by the way. All right, so I know we are running out of time, and maybe we'll just open this up to everyone instead of going into a breakout room. But I'm really curious, do you have some assignments in mind where you might pull in a social media platform or a social media concept to the mix? If you have something you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you.
I can tell you one thing that I did when I was teaching high school anatomy. One of the choices they were given was to create a TikTok that went over various bones, the anatomy of the human body that they learned, and kind of come up with a neat way of presenting that. And so it was just 60 seconds, but the kids loved that. They loved it. Yeah. Another option was to do Google Slides. Another one was to do an iMovie. Nobody chose that, unfortunately, but they love the TikTok one.
That's awesome. Can I ask you about the iMovie? Because I think others might have the same question. Do you train them, or do you have instructions to help them through that, how to create one?
Most of the kids that I teach, at least the high school kids, are pretty more proficient than I am. There's not much I could tell them that they don't already know.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think sometimes, I think sometimes undergrads know more than they let on.
Yeah.
But then they don't choose to do that, maybe because it's too much work, or there could be a variety of reasons.
Oh, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, I know. My students had an awesome time with the storyboarding thing, really, for TikTok. They were super hesitant to record, but I think I need to push, that was my first time experimenting with it. So next time I'll push to get the recording done. Okay. To have them do that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Okay, so I know our time is up. I just want you to know that in this presentation, again, this is all about us working together and creating community. That's really what social is all about. I know there are bad things. I know there are good things. And then here is the appendix with a whole bunch of resources for you, some platform specific, and then others just related to social media in the classroom. So thank you so much for hanging out with me and talking about this topic I really love. And I hope you have some food for thought here to move forward. So thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much.